Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. So today I have the Cold Steel WARCRAFT Tanto, and it was sent in by a supporter of the channel, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Pat for sending this in to get it customized. Now this is the second knife that he has sent to me to get customized, and the first one he sent I believe was the Recon 1 XL. So I'll leave a link up to that video. You guys can check that out if you guys haven't seen it already. But let's get the specs up on screen, and while the specs are up there we can get the knife out of the sheath and we can get a closer look at it. So we got a CPM 3V steel in the Tanto shaped blade, hence the name. Get a nice flat grind on both sides, and then also for the Tanto tip. And I don't know how Cold Steel does it, but they always have this really nice blackened finish on their blade, where you can still see the finish they put on the blade or the metal itself, and then you can see it through that blackened finish. It's just a really neat finish. We got very nicely milled black G10 handles with nice contoured areas for your fingers or just to fit comfortably in hand, which looks really good. And they are fairly thick. You get a nice lanyard hole here in the back, and then the knife actually comes with a really nice polymer sheath, which fits in there very snug, and you have to get quite a bit of pressure to actually yank it out. So a really nice sheath, and this sheath is compatible with the Tech-Lock belt adapters, which is a really nice feature because then you can basically set up this knife exactly the way you want. And then you also have a little button lock strap here, so when you want to have it secure in the strap, you can just have it in there nice and snug, and then obviously quick release when you just unbutton it. Now the ergos on this knife are really good. It's a very comfortable knife in hand, and it's one whole piece of CPM 3V, so you're getting just a really solid knife. And those ergos are really comfortable due to those nicely milled grooves. And really nothing bad to say about this knife other than it's fairly big, but if you're looking for a outdoorsy knife, or personally I would use this for camping or my grab and go bag, but this thing can do, you can do quite a bit with this thing. There's good chopping action. You can even slice vegetables, I'm sure. But yeah, just all around really solid knife. So what I'll be customizing on this knife is just the scales. So I'll be exchanging the G10 scales to the carbon fiber G10 mix scales, like I did on Pat's XL as well. Unfortunately, this material only comes a certain thickness, so I actually had to cut it in half and then glue it into two pieces to get that thickness that I need for the scales. And now that I have the correct thickness, I basically can make the two scales, add the rock texture as well on the new scales that Pat really likes. So that is what we're going to do. So let's take these scales off and see what's really holding this thing together. Alright, so here it is all taken apart, and it's very simply put together. You have two screws, and then the D-shaped tubes here that it screws into, which is a nice feature because you won't have that free spinning issue when you're trying to go from one end. But that is what holds everything together on this knife. So now that it's taken apart, let's get into customizing it. Alright, so here it is all finished. Now there were two challenges to creating these scales. Now I know it looks simple for a fixed blade to just have two scales on each side on the tang itself, but the issue was, as you guys can see, this tang actually tapers towards the end. So of course Cold Steel didn't want to do it just flat, so that was a bit of a challenge for me to actually create a slanted edge here on the bottom side of the scale. So as you guys can see here, it goes from skinny to fat towards the end. Again, I made up that taper just so it sits nicely onto the tang. And since I have it here, I'll show you guys a close-up of the texture that I put onto these G10 carbon fiber scales. Really happy with the outcome. Put some tung oil on it to protect it and bring out that shimmer. And here is the other one. Similar pattern. Again, it's just really cool when it hits the light at certain angles. And another challenge that I ran into, because these are actually the second set of scales, I messed up on the first ones, and that was because the sheath, the material that I removed on the front of the scales, I removed just a little bit too much, and the tension on the sheath was, honestly, it was terrible. I mean, it just slid right out, and very frustrated that happened, but I'm always learning as I go, and definitely learned that you got to be patient when you're doing a fixed blade, especially when it has a sheath. So keep that in mind if you are going to mod a fixed blade. So really quick, just wanted to show you guys up here in the front. So basically, before I even added the texture, I made sure to remove just the right amount of material and to give a nice beveled edge here by the finger choil so that it locks up nicely into the sheath. I still have the texture, it's just not as deep up here in the front, because if I remove too much material, then it's not going to lock into place in the sheath. So learned a lot on this one, even though it looks like a simple mod. Definitely was a pretty big challenge. So the lock-in is really good, and I'll show you guys that when we put this all together. And speaking of putting together, let's do just that and see what it looks like. Alright, so here it is all finished, and this will definitely complement the Recon 1 XL in Pat's collection. So just really happy with it. There it is, and there you go, in the light. Just does its thing, and just a really grippy texture on this already great ergonomically awesome handle. So it does fit in the hand very well. I did create the nice finger grooves here. I know you can't see it, but from this angle you can see how I kind of dug in there, just so your fingers can fit in nicely, kind of like I just went off of the original scales. So you got these little grooves in there, fingers fit in there comfortably, you get that grip from the texture. So really happy with the outcome. And as always, let me know down below what you guys think of how these scales turned out. And you can see, now you can see with the scales on how it tapers. So that was a challenge within itself. Did the jimping there on the scales just to match on the blade itself. I know it's a simple mod, but it does make a pretty big change when you notice that something is just a little different on this knife. So I wanted to show you guys the way this retention works. Now there's two little tabs in there, and if you can see them, if I can get them on camera, but there's two little tabs up here on each side. Now I couldn't mess too much with the contouring up here by the finger choil, because that's actually where it goes and latches over. So now that when you slide it in, you actually get a nice solid lockup, which didn't happen on the first scales, which was really frustrating again, but you can actually hear it now when it locks in. So I mean, that blade is going nowhere, which I am extremely happy with. And you actually have to pull pretty hard to get this thing out. So Again, I couldn't send it to the customer with no retention because, well, that would be a big problem. But there is the Cold Steel WARCRAFT Tanto. All said and done. Again, let me know what you guys think down below of how this thing turned out. Or if you guys have a WARCRAFT Tanto and what you guys think of it. I think this is a great blade for a grab and go bag or for bushcraft. Definitely a solid knife. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support. Thank you again. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.